we chose a really good time because there's a war going on in the Middle East as we're doing this. But let's talk a little about a happier topic. You're the CEO of YMC on the CSE. It's Yukon Metals, and this is a pretty new company, like a new kid on the block, and it has a very astute background. And this company is essentially several decades in the making. Can you tell us about how this company came together?
Yeah, thanks, Robert. And I should say that we are trading in the U.S. Currently under the symbol YMMCF. We're apparently any day now we should have an OTC QB. It's currently trading on pink sheets. Yeah, so this Yukon Metals, similarly to Snowline Gold, who I'm sure your readers and subscribers are familiar with, SGD. We both come from the same lineage. The genesis of Yukon Metals is that it's the fruit of 30 years of prospecting by the Birdall family, who also founded the gold assets. So the gold assets in the Birdall family portfolio were floated as Snowline. That was about 3.5 years ago or so, and they've gone on to be spectacularly successful, particularly at Valley, and now after a few seasons. We're in our initial season here, but have two properties that we're incredibly excited about. Yeah, we put out news on Star River today, where we've seen Bonanza grade gold, up to 3 ounces per ton gold, and we've seen what is it, 319 ounces per ton silver. So that's about 4 ounces per ton gold equivalent at Star River. And at Birch, our copper gold asset, we think that's a gold rich copper porphyry. It was initially explored for gold, but we think that's the enrichment blanket of gold on top of a copper gold porphyry there.
Oh, yeah, that's exciting. I like that. So let's talk a little bit more about the founding of the company and who are the largest shareholders.
Yeah, no, good. Thanks for bringing that up. So I would think just under 10% is Keith Neumeyer. So just a hair under 10% of the company, and much like Snowline, Keith helped put Yukon Metals together. So brought the Birdall family and together with his finance group that Keith helped put together, and helped raise the $15 million to get us going here. So Keith obviously has a very rich background in the space with founding First Quantum, and then obviously First Majestic, that he's the CEO of, as well as founding that, and that's been tremendously successful, and has recently had a big acquisition, and obviously Keith has founded many companies, and I think Yukon Metals is set here to be yet another success. The Birdall family own roughly 30% of the company. And then other key investors that have come in is Crescat Capital. They're a great investor, and Quinn there has been a big supporter of ours. Commodity Capital, Tobias and his group. So a really good group of shareholders. The folks that came in for the $15 million raise, so that was about 40 million shares there across two tranches. Really good money. I mean, a lot of senior brokers from Haywood, so senior money from Canaccord here in town in Vancouver, and then some of the institutions and high net worth that I just mentioned to you.
Okay. And you guys did a pretty good sized capital raise. I mean, I think the last financials I saw, you guys had about 12 million in the treasury. What's it at now?
It's probably just a hair under 10 now. About when I was down in Beaver Creek and you and I sat down together, we were at 10 at that point. So I mean, we've wrapped up a few things, and so we really only spent 2 million in the season this year. So we've been really responsible with shareholders' money, and certainly have a pretty big war chest heading into next season, and where we expect to have two major drill programs.
Okay. So 17 projects in the portfolio. That seems like a lot for a junior. So what's the strategy of how you sort of advance these and get some attention for maybe some of the more advanced projects?
Yeah, no, 17 is too many, really. And so what we did is, as you mentioned, this is a new story. So we closed the deal with the Birdalls on May 30th. We listed on June 3rd, and then got going from there. So when we sat down with our technical group, we looked at how to prioritize these assets, and we looked at it on different axes. So where we had one of those axes would have been where we had the most information to go on already, where we had the most showings, where another one that came into play with Star River is having all weather road access. So really the lowest hanging fruit this season, where we thought we could add the most value in the shortest amount of time, given that we had roughly half a season. As we know with the Yukon, it's a relatively tight season anyway. You're probably looking at May to October at a maximum. And we really got started in the field in August, where generally you would get started in June, at the latest. So we really prioritized five assets. So Birch, in the west of the Yukon, Star River, more central, which we've reported on substantially, both of those assets, and then AZ, which we believe is prospective for copper or gold porphyries, um, and Fairway, and then there's the Expo asset that is relatively close to Star River. It was actually Ron Birdall's favorite asset, and we'll work to do more there in the coming months and into next season. But we thought we could add more value at Star River and Birch initially here. So just to finish off there, I think likely we'll end up doing a bit of portfolio optimization with all of the assets. So I think there's some critical metal assets there. There's some tungsten that maybe that might fit better in another company's group of assets that are more focused on that space. So if there's the potential for us to add some value there, de-risk those assets to some extent, and then pass them on to something that's going to focus on them, and or JV, various different options, that someone else is going to be able to enhance value there, then we'll look at that. And that's something we're going to look at over the coming weeks and months. We've just been so busy in the field and creating all of this news over the last few months.
Okay, so let's talk about Birch and Star River and maybe the AZ project. So the Birch is the first one that caught my attention, and you put out some news on September 3rd from Birch, including soil sampling, some rock samples, and I mean the soils really light up there at Birch over a pretty large anomaly. And the last I heard from you about Birch is you're doing IP and maybe one other survey. So, what's the update there?
Yeah, so we've completed that IP work now, and we'll be coming back to the market, and we'll fully interpret it, and then we'll come back to the market with our findings there. We've been very pleased with how things have developed at Birch, and are really excited about how that's coming together. So yeah, I think as you referenced there, we demonstrated a gold in soil anomaly of almost a gram per ton gold, so 0.99 grams per ton gold across 1,400 meters, in a really tight footprint. I mean, tight in that it's quite coherent and concise, but over 1,400 meters, and also saw over 0.2% copper in those soils. So over a large footprint, and yeah, so we've done some structural mapping. We've done lots of prospecting, and I think this IP will really help tell the story there about give us more information on the bedrock there. And we've also there was some samples pending as of September the 3rd. I think we'll be going to be able to provide more detail to the market and fill in some of the gaps there of the pending samples that were there. So, but internally, we are as excited about Birch as we are about Star River, right? I mean, I think that soils don't tend to capture the market's attention as much as Bonanza grade gold and silver, but we think, I mean, internally, our technical people think that could have casino like potential there, and we think we have a copper gold porphyry.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of evidence pointing to a porphyry system there, and so the IP should be really valuable in seeing what's deeper underneath the Earth's surface there.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, like 0.2% copper in soils over a wide area is a pretty strong copper and soil anomaly that can often be the first evidence of a large porphyry system at depth. So yeah, like Birch is pretty interesting to me. I really can't wait to see some more news from you guys on that one. And then Star River is the one that you guys have been talking about here in the last month with two news releases and some really high grade prospecting samples coming out of Star River. You're getting some really high silver and gold values there. So tell us about Star River and is there more to come from that one?
There is more to come. Yes, I'd been telling folks when we were down in Beaver Creek after putting that initial news out, because those were the first. I think it was 41 41 samples of 175 or so that we collected, and we internally were really excited about the rocks that were to come, even though that we'd already reported what was it, almost 11,000 grams per ton silver, or 319 ounces per ton silver. We thought there was even better to come, or even more to come. And sure enough, we've been able to demonstrate not only a Star River highly prospective for very high grade silver, it's highly prospective for high grade gold. So we approached this as a silver lead zinc asset, and it seems like yeah, there's some complexities there and some nuance, and so we're seeing the silver and some of the rocks I showed you down in Beaver Creek, and got to show the Crescat folks as well. That's the galena that we see there, so that houses the silver. But we're also seeing in the same package, we're seeing arsenopyrite, and we're seeing the gold associated with the arsenic, as you would expect. Before, we'd seen sort of 9 grams per ton gold and some reasonable gold grades, but then this 101 gram per ton gold sample as well, and 3 ounces per ton gold, and this is in a mix of float and outcrop that we're collecting, and we're collecting where our camp is just in the valley bottom there, and it's road access all the way from Whitehorse. You and I could take a flight there and get there in 5 hours, get to camp, and we're seeing these outcrops on both sides of this valley, right? And so in multiple multiple outcrops throughout the property. We're seeing the same kind of rock packages, the same sort of mineralization come up in multiple different areas, hundreds and hundreds of meters apart. But we're finding these. I mean, if you take a look at the news release, it's pretty comprehensive and it's a bit of a read. But if you look at the figures there, you can see in Figure 6 and Figure 7 where all of the silver, high grade silver, was found and where all of the high grade gold was found, and there's some overlap there. But what you can see is that these are multiple showings, some that were known before, some new, that stretch over hundreds of meters. And the opportunity here is is the extent to which there's continuity between all of them, and how big and powerful this is the system that feeds all of these outcrops, right? And if these are connected, which obviously I think that's then you start to could start to see that this could be a project, right? And so the geophysics that we've been doing, the mag and the gravity, that's going to tell us a lot about the potential continuity here.
Yeah, I mean, this reminds me of Fireweed's Mac Pass in some ways.
Mm,
Yeah, so you're doing TDEM,
yep.
a gravity ground survey, and you'll have those results out in the next several weeks, you think?
Yeah, we'll have more samples to come. As I told the market, we were tremendously excited about being able to get assays for these samples. And I think as we provide more and more detail and more areas where we're finding these high grade rocks, I think it will become more and more compelling, and paint the picture about what the potential is here. And then
Mm.
after that, we'll come back with our interpretation of the geophysics. I know that geophysicists at the time when I was at site about a month or so ago, they certainly were getting a lot of reads from and at that time, before we'd had a chance to assay the rocks, thought, I mean, they wanted to be cautious and said, look, we're getting a lot of reads and we see some continuity, but this could be graphite lenses that we're seeing. There could be multiple different signals. But now that we're seeing the strength of these readings, these assays now, and the amount of metal that's in these rocks, I'm starting to feel more and more confident that the readings they were getting was metal.
Yeah, I think some of those rocks you showed me at Beaver Creek, those would show up pretty strongly as a as a
Yeah,
as a gravity anomaly.
right.
Um, yeah, so hopefully there's a lot more of that. And then the AZ property. So that's sort of the third one. And when I first looked at your portfolio, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I really like the location
Mm-hmm.
of this one. It's in this it's in this porphyry trend that comes out from BC. It goes to Alaska,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got all the pathfinders at surface. You've got
Mm-hmm.
the magnetite, the epidote, garnet skarn. You got chalcopyrite. So it looks like a porphyry system to me. So what have you done at that one this year?
With AZ, we got in towards the end of the season, and we did some prospecting, and so we're finding the kind of the rocks that we wanted to find there, the malachite, and we found that sort of strong green staining that we wanted to see. That's often an indicator of good copper grading. And so yeah, I mean, relatively early stage there. That is a big property. By the time we got in there, we were dealing with wildlife migration and some of those sort of aspects. So we had to be cautious about flying the property because you can interrupt the wildlife, and that's not something we want to do. But yeah, it's fully permitted now, and we'll continue to do more work at AZ and advance that into next season. But we're really excited about AZ. We think there's a huge amount of potential. It is a relatively large property, and we ended up staking more ground around it to the south and at Fairway as well. So we've staked a lot of property there, and it's close to the Alaska Highway too. So I mean, as far as being a place, if you're able to demonstrate something that is could be a project there, I mean, you're not far from the Alaska Highway.
Okay, so to sort of put a bow tie on it, at Birch and at Star River, are you confident that, let's say, by the end of this year, once you've assimilated all the data and interpret it, that this is going to be that both these projects will be ready to be drilled in 2025?
100%. We would be drilling Birch in like, well, this month or next month, if it wasn't for the seasonality inherent in the
Hmm.
Yukon, right? There's really not much more. I mean, we did talk about doing this. Obviously, we're going to learn about this the IP, and but after, I mean, we're starting to interpret that now. But I don't think there's much more that we're going to learn, certainly about the northern part of that property, other than by drilling it. So I look forward to a significant drill program at Birch in 2025, and at Star too. Yeah, I mean, we're champing at the bit to drill at Star, and in particular there, where that's going to be helpful is having that road access that goes right to camp, and so there's a potential there to have, first of all, much lower drilling costs because you're bringing everything in by road and not flying it in. And then there is the potential there, if it makes sense, it might cost a little bit more, and can be tricky depending on the terrain, but it is plausible there to drill in winter, right? And so we'll need to update our permitting, and we're already starting the permitting work now across the board on these assets. So and we'll be providing news to the market on our permitting efforts as well.
Okay. And if anybody has a question for Rory, go ahead and ask to speak, and I'll call on you. I guess my final question, Rory, is what can we expect from the company over the next couple of months? Sort of like what do we have to be excited about as shareholders here as the year winds down?
What you'll see from us is tying a bow around Birch and Star River in particular. I think you'll see some other news from us relative to AZ and Fairway and perhaps elsewhere. But the most compelling, I think, will be demonstrating a rock solid rationale for a major drilling program at Star River and at Birch. And so we'll pull all of the legwork we've done, all of the sampling we've done, and prospecting, all of the geophysics we've done, the structural mapping, the LiDAR. You're going to see us pull all of those elements together, fully interpreted, build a comprehensive drill program, and then we'll demonstrate that to the market. We will then go back to the capital markets with a use of proceeds, and we'll raise money above the previous financing levels, and make sure that we've got that we're well covered for at least two significant drill programs next season.
All right, perfect. Rory Quinn, Yukon Metals, YMC on the CSE. I feel like we're going to have a lot more conversations over the next year, Rory, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds
Yeah.
for YMC.
Thanks a lot, Robert. I mean, I think one question I did get just to close here is what an analog for Star River, and I think an investor asked if we thought that was similar to Keno Hill. I know Quinn had made that analogy before. And interestingly enough, I was at Wheaton. We were invested in Keno Hill, so I'm quite familiar with that asset. And obviously very high grade over many decades. But I'm not sure they've seen this level of high grade gold at Keno Hill. So exciting days ahead.
Very interesting. All right, thanks, Rory.
Thanks,
cheers. Have a great day.
bye.
Thanks for tuning in. This will be on my YouTube on Thursday.